Hi, this is Brian again, and welcome to another video on my web application NetChecklist.com. In this video, I'm going to go over again one of the checklists that I use for my real estate business with Coldwell, Banker, Howard Perry, and Walston. And in this one, I'm going to go over the checklist that I use when a listing goes pending, so a pending listing checklist. And I can see it here under my checklists and my list side pending. And you see this checklist actually has 49 things. I need to add one more to get an even 50. I'll try to think of something as we're going through this. But in this video, like the last one, I'm actually using a shared checklist. So this checklist is actually set up on a higher organization level and shared. This is a kind of a fake organization that I created, and it's shared with this organization. And this is something you could do with a real estate company where you share it with real estate agents, and they can't change the items on the checklist, but they can change who the items are assigned to in their organization. The assignments are independent of organization. So if an agent had an assistant, they could say, well, I want to assign some of these things to my assistant, and I'll do some, and then they can keep track of everything that their assistant is doing. And I didn't mention in the last video, but two things I would ask that you kind of think about as I'm going through this. And you know, if you look at this as if this was your only list side pending and this was the only thing you had going, you may kind of think, you know what, this stuff isn't that hard to keep up with. I could keep up with that. I don't need an application to help me keep up with that. But the two things I would ask you to think of is, number one, what about when this isn't the only one you've got? What about when you've got 4 list sides pending that are in different stages, and you've got 2 new listings you're working on, and you've got 3 buyer clients that you're working on trying to find houses for, and another listing that you're doing a market analysis on, and you've got 2 buyer sides pending. So you've got all these things up in the air and all these different things you're doing, and you're doing tons and tons of things every day. And it starts to get really confusing keeping up with what you have and haven't done on every deal, and they start to run together. And so that's the first one, when you have a bunch of things going on. And the second thing is, think about with new agents. If you're helping train a new agent, and new agents don't know what they're supposed to do. And even when they're told things, they're going to forget little things along the way. And you'll see I've got a lot of things in here that are kind of helpful hints of things to do. And so something like this can really help get a new agent up and running pretty quickly, and they're not going to make a big mistake along the way. So to start off from the home screen, which is where our task list would be if we had anything, the first thing, so let's say your listing goes pending, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to copy a checklist to the task list, which opens a little accordion menu, and I'm going to do the list side pending, and it says it's shared because it is a shared checklist, and we've got to assign it to a project. Now I've got this 123 Anywhere Drive. If normally you would set up your project first and then copy it for it. And on the list side pending checklist, part of the checklist is it's going to ask you for 2 things. It's going to ask you to enter the due diligence date and the closing date, because it's going to assign some things based on those. So let's do, for the due diligence date, let's do 8/15, and for the closing date, let's do 8/31. Okay, and we're going to copy checklist. So it added 49 tasks to the checklist. Tasks to the task list, 43 dependencies, and no errors. So let's go to our home page. So it added 49 tasks to our task list, but when we go to our home page, only 3 are showing up, and that's because everything else is dependent on something. So it's going to take us through this process. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to get the offer to purchase and all other paperwork signed by both buyers and sellers. We're going to make a separate folder for the property, in the property loop, in .loop for this offer. Let's say that we've done that, and we're going to get the earnest money and due diligence fee from the buyer's agent. This is assuming we've got a deal. It may be a verbal deal at this point. And let's mark the complete also that we've got the offer to purchase and all the other paperwork signed. Let's mark those complete. That actually activates 13 dependent tasks on different things. This is because we've got the earnest money and due diligence checks. We've got to get that turned in as soon as possible. We've got to deliver copies of the executed contract and other paperwork to the buyer's agent. We're going to say we did that. We got to make sure we've got power and water on for the home inspection. We've got to upload all signed contracts and addenda to .loop if necessary. If it's already in there, you don't have to do that. If the listing is a referral, notify the reload department and send them a copy of the contract. We're going to mark that complete. We're going to add the listing sold input form to .loop from the miscellaneous and admin templates and fill it out. Let's say we hadn't done that yet. We're going to scan our earnest money and due diligence check and upload those copies into .loop. And we're going to deliver fully executed copies of the contracts to the sellers. And we're going to change the listing status to active contingent in MLS. We're going to tell our sellers to go ahead and deposit the due diligence check because the buyer's lender is going to need proof that it's cleared the buyer's bank account. I had one that they didn't deposit it because they're like, well, we didn't want to deposit it until closing in case it didn't close. And we're calling them going, no, deposit it. We need you to. We're going to write the sale on the board in the hallway. We're going to put a pending sign rider on the sign in the yard. And if there's additional earnest money due, this one you kind of have to do manually, but you would want to change the date when it's going to be due so it'll remind you. But let's say we don't have any due, so we're going to just delete that. So we're going to process all those updates. That only activated one more task. That's to, we already had add the listing sold input form to .loop, so let's do that. And deliver the due diligence money to the seller and get the acknowledgement signed. Let's say we haven't done that. In .loop now, that once we did the listing sold input form and filled it out, now it's going to tell us to change the status to in .loop to under contract and submit for review. Let's do that. I'm going to still ignore that other one for now. And so now we're left with deliver due diligence to the seller and get the acknowledgement signed. So let's say we had to mail them the check and it took them a couple of days to get it and sign the acknowledgement. Oops, I didn't click it. All right, so now it's going to tell us upload the acknowledgement to .loop if necessary and send a copy of that due diligence receipt sign to the buyer's agent so they'll have that. So let's mark those complete. Now we're down to 0 tasks, but if we go to our checklist copied page, 19 of the 48 are done. So where are the other ones? Let's go back to our task list and remember that it assigns some things in the future. So let's go to our task sort and filter options. So we'd be kind of done for right then. And by default, the application shows you everything assigned up through whatever the current day is. So let's say that some time goes by. I don't know if the 8th is going to get us anything or not. Let's look at that. Yep. So on the assigned on the 7th is this item that says get a repair request from the buyers, and the due diligence date per the contract is on 8/15. So it's just kind of giving you as a listing agent a heads up that, hey, due diligence is coming up. You need that repair request if there's going to be one, so you'll have time to get quotes on it so you can keep so you won't forget about that. Let's say that's complete. Let's say you've gotten the repair request from your buyers. Now it's going to say, it's going to tell you, heads up, read it very carefully and make sure you and the seller understand exactly what they're agreeing to. We've probably as agents all kind of missed something subtle on there and had to work it out later. So let's say we've done that and we're going to negotiate repairs and get the repair request signed by the sellers. It may not be the first one. This is, again, this is one of those little things, especially for new agents, to give them a heads up. Read it very carefully. So let's say we negotiate it, get it signed by the sellers. Now it's going to tell us to upload the signed due diligence repair request to .loop if necessary. Send a copy to the buyer's agent. We can do that. And schedule the repair. So let's do that. Now again, we're out of tasks. So let's go back to our task sort and filter options, and let's go from the 8/8. Let's go up to the 22nd and see what that gets us. Okay, so on the 11th, it's going to tell us, it would have told us, I'm going all the way through the 22nd, but on the 11th, it would have told us to check with the buyer's agent about loan approval status and update the seller. So let's say we did that. Okay, due diligence period expires on 8/15. This says that it has expired, and that's going to pop up on 8/10, and that's because I've got the checklist set up with a 5-day lead time. So it's putting it on our list on 8/10, telling us that it's going to expire on 8/15. Let's say let's mark that complete too. process updates. Okay, let's say that it has expired. Let's say we get to the point, let's say we're past 8:10, we're up to 8:15 and it has expired. So let's mark off that it has expired. And that actually only updates one task, activates one task, which is now we're going to change the status to pending in MLS. So let's mark that complete. Now we're down here to within 10 days of closing, and basically it tells you here, mark this complete when you're within about 10 days of closing. Marking it complete will activate other tasks, and it tells you the closing date per contract is 8/31. So part of the idea of this is you don't want a lot of stuff popping up until you know you really are within 10 days of closing. So we're going to say, so it's kind of a dummy task because it's got a bunch of other things that are dependent on it. So let's say we mark it complete, and that activated 7 dependent tasks. Okay, and what those are, it's going to tell you to go ahead and order the deed. You know, if you're reasonably sure that the buyer's loan is approved, it's okay to order the deed. Go ahead and send the loan payoff info to the closing attorney. They're going to need to know the bank, the loan number, and the last 4 of the seller's social security number. Normally that does it. If they have something else they need, they're going to let you know. Notify the closing attorney that we won't be bringing the earnest money deposit check to closing, deduct it from our commission. So you're going to tell the attorney that. We're going to send the closing attorney bills for all repairs to put them on the HUD. So we're going to start doing that. You may not have them all immediately, but let's say we've done that and we want to get a copy of the HUD and review it. And you can make these sleep for a few days if you're not quite ready yet. So let's say we've done that. It's going to tell us to get our keys and garage door openers, alarm remotes, and codes to take to closing. Let's say we've done that. And let's mark all of those done. After we order the deed, we're going to get the deed signed by the sellers. I'm ignoring that one for now. So now we're down to that the sale is closed, but still if we look at our checklist copy page, we've still only got 37 out of 48 tasks done. So there's still some more hiding. So sale closed. Let's say the sale is closed. We mark this complete. That activates 3 dependent tasks. Pick up the check and a signed copy of the HUD from the attorney's office. Close the listing in the MLS. Pick up your sign and lockbox. Let's mark all of those complete. Now it's going to tell us to turn our check into the office because we picked it up. Turn in our lockbox. That's how we do it here. I don't know how y'all do it in Raleigh. We got to scan our HUD and upload it into .loop. If the seller is a referral, deliver a copy of the HUD to the reload department. Let's mark that complete. Then, after we've uploaded the HUD to .loop, we're going to change the status in .loop to sold and submit for review. Let's mark that complete. And the last thing is get the closed file approved in .loop. Let's mark that complete. And that is probably everything. Let's look at our checklist copied. 47 out of 48. Let me go back to here 1 second. Okay, I know what I did. We actually missed one because on my task sort and filter options, I didn't ever go past 8:21. If we had, and the closing was set for 8:31. If we had actually gone to, say, the 26th, we got to the 26th, which is still ahead of our closing date, we would have gotten this urgent task popping up saying, hey, the closing date per the contract is 8:31. So it's giving you a heads up. It was actually assigned on 8/23, so it's basically a 7-day lag before the closing. We actually missed that because I never changed my date assigned here, but when you're working in this day-to-day, when you hit that day, it's going to pop up. So let's say we had already marked that complete. So there it's done. So that's how the application can help with a pending listing. Thank you for watching.